And we're live. 4 seconds
We are.
in.
Hello, Mikey.
Hello, New York Vinnie. He's New York Vinnie. He's in Seattle. I'm Michael Knight. I'm in Los Angeles. And what do we call the show, Vin?
It's Mikey and Vinnie take on the world, which we do often.
With free
And
comments.
we are on every day. No, we're not on every day. We're on Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10:10 until we decide to call it quits, until we run out of ideas, or an
And
hour,
we
whichever comes first.
and we
Um,
may we may be embracing a new format soon, which will be shorter, more pointed, and more focused and more fun.
yeah, I don't know about the focusing thing. I was thinking about that. That's a little strange. But what we are
I
going to do
I know what you
is
mean.
in a very short amount of time, probably the week after next or so, um, we're probably going to go to a shorter format and a podcast so that you can get us, we figure that 40 minutes, or 35 minutes could be enough of us a day.
Yeah.
Um,
And
you know,
it'll
uh,
come in the form of a suppository.
right. You'll be able to place it, literally, you'll be able to stick us where the sun don't shine. Although I've
Under
always
your
felt that I
tongue.
live where the sun don't shine. So, and I've been here a long time, but we
Well,
are going to make that
first of all, just for people who are worried about it, the sun can't shine everywhere all the time. That's just not the way the. And if you went to school and actually picked that up through your scientific learning, which is coming to an end in America,
no science, Mike,
you would know
because if
that.
you destroy the Department of Education, how could you have science?
Well, the trouble with science is the first thing you get with science is a scientist, and the scientist knows stuff that you don't know, and he tries to tell you and tries to explain it to you, and it's your option to say, I don't even believe what you're saying. You're just a scientist. What do you know about anything? Don't tell me about gravity being a giant wave through the whole universe. Nobody believes that. Gravity is something that Donald Trump invented with Leon Musk just last week. They made it in one of their plants, the Fremont plant in California. They made gravity for the first time. And any other explanation to the contrary is just deep state lying to you. It's just a hoax. It's like the Russian hoax. By the way, Russia doesn't have gravity. We're going to sell
They
them
don't need it.
some.
What do they need gravity for?
It's
They've
never worked
proven
out
that
for them.
if you fall out a window, you go splat. You really need to know much more than that in Russia.
That's about it. The splat syndrome.
It's
And why have a word with three syllables when you can have a word with one syllable that means the same thing? Gravity or splat? Which one do you want?
I like splat.
Here's
I'm
my
a
problem.
splat guy.
Here's my problem with the Department of Education disappearing, being sent asunder by the vicious sons of bitches that surround and serve and fear Donald Trump. My granddaughter, Kennedy Quinn Musha, is on a math team right now. She's a mathlete and she competes internationally on the internet from the third grade. Now, by the time her brother, who's in kindergarten, gets to the third grade, there may be nothing available to children who are gifted with math and are mathletes. There may be no concept of international competition for kids to enjoy what their gifts, to enjoy computing, adding, subtracting, dividing, and multiplying with kids their own age from around the world so that they can compete as mathletes. There'll be no opening for that. There'll be no concept for that even to exist. And the the direction this is going is everyone's going to be going to private schools. And you can go to a Trump private school where they'll teach you hate, the difference between people, the fact there is no gravity, and that Russia's your friend. Or you can go to a real private school where they teach you a classic education, and the end result will be Trump heads who know nothing but think they know it all, armed with misinformation and lies, will be competing in the job market for people who had a real education with real answers to real questions and real efforts on their part to grow their gifts and to find something that they love to do in life and to apply themselves to it and to get an advanced degree to help them do it and have a educational background that proves that they've learned these things, as opposed to someone who just says, I don't believe any of that shit, follow me.
Well, I don't. I find it hard to understand what the advantage is of cutting a whole department as opposed to going in and saying, okay, we have these professionals here, we have these people here, we need to get this result, which is something that nobody has ever done, is to go into these departments and say, we need to get this result. How do we get there? So that we're not shortchanging our children, so that we keep them, that we get them educated. But the reality is, if you want to run a dictatorship, or if you want to run an autocracy, you can't have people too educated. We've been talking about this for years, but way back in the pandemic days, when we first started doing this. One of
You
the
can't
first
you
things
can't have you can't have little Vinnie raising his hand and saying that's not right.
you
We
can't have
learned that in
educated
school.
people
You cannot have
because
that, and
educated people tend to question things
that's why
and
J.D.
tend to
Vance,
ask.
Who went to Harvard, does not want you to go to Harvard. Doesn't want you anywhere near that school. He wants to systematically and viciously attack the university level education system, so that it no longer exists. So that the gifts and the advantages that he had will no longer be available to anyone else ever again.
Well, as the French found out, a little education can topple a matter of fact, I think they found it out a few times. The little education will topple a dynasty or at
Well,
least an autocracy fairly quickly.
of course, they made a slight mistake. They replaced their king with an emperor, and that turned out to be nothing. That was the wrong
And
idea.
that's never a good thing. But as
And we have an emperor now, Leon Musk.
we have actually right now a king and an emperor, don't we? We have King Donald and Emperor Leon, and you know it's what shocks me is the total disregard for the rule of law.
And the embracing of ignorance, the embracing of getting it wrong, the embracing of saying measles are not a disease, China and Russia are your friends, tariffs shore up the economy, Canada is your enemy. All
Yeah,
these
how they
lie,
got the Canada is your enemy one by is I
all,
don't know how they got people thinking that. And I still can't believe the people do think it, to be honest with you. I still can't believe, and the more people I talk to, the more I wonder. Um, there just doesn't seem to be. I mean, it's really hard to convince people that Canada is your enemy. I was watching a piece on Canadian television this morning because luckily here in Seattle we get Canadian television
and
and we
radio
can
if
see
you
the
tune
other
it in.
side of this
Right.
and what's going on. And I was watching a piece that they did with a guy in a town that I am very familiar with, Old Orchard, Maine. It is
It's not the new orchard, it's the old orchard.
right. It's Old Orchard, Maine. It's north of Kennebunkport, east of Portland, and it's a beach town. In a town where you don't really go to the beach. The beach is rocks, but
Pieces
you still
rocks.
go by the ocean. You still go by the inlet, and they have lots of resort places, lots of bed and breakfasts. They have an old amusement park there. It's probably 100 years old and is still operating. Um, and fried dough is the big thing. You go
Just
down to at night when you um, when you go to Old Orchard at night, the big thing is to go down by the amusement park, and they have games and stuff lined up, and they have the fried dough stand, and you can smell fried dough for blocks in each direction. The whole town smells like fried dough,
what
and
does it look like after it's fried?
It's nicely browned with some sugar, cinnamon on it, or butter, or whatever you put on it. Some people put whipped cream and strawberries.
Oh,
You
good.
know, it depends on what turns you on. And so there was a guy who owns an inn up there who is deeply in trouble. His main business comes from Quebec, from Montreal, and he was showing the reporter, the CBC reporter, um, the number of reservation costs. Now, this is a place they don't have them. I don't know out here. Maybe Lake Chelan is the closest thing. Maybe Big Bear down there, but back east on the coast, there's these places that people go, and it's like it's a resort, but it's not like the resort you think about. It's just a room in a huge converted house or hotel, but the family goes there, and they go like every year, and the kids go, and grandma goes, and everybody goes to Old Orchard or similar towns like it for a year, for a month or in the summer. And the French are really into this. The French Canadians, they go. I mean, you can count on. I mean, I remember when I used to go up to Old Orchard myself. You would see the same people in the same weeks, year to year to year.
In the same swimsuit.
Yeah. So this guy was showing the reservations that he had at the beginning. You know, in January, where he was all booked up. You couldn't get a room. All booked up already, all paid. Now he's got a stack of reservations in his hand, and this stack, part of the stack, is the people that are still coming, and this part of the stack, probably 80% of the stack, is people that have called and canceled.
Because the Canadians are taking
Now,
this seriously.
right, these are French Canadians, probably some not French Canadians, but that's where he does the bulk of his business. These are Canadians that have been doing this as a family tradition for years. Years and years and years and years. Grandpa did it, mom did it, grandpa did it, maybe even great grandpa did it. And because of this idiocy that's going on, they've said we're staying in Canada.
Because of the madness of one man and the inability of anybody to challenge him with the truth.
Right. And they're going to kill this guy. This guy's going to go out of business. And I dare say that he's not the only one. Those little fried dough stands in those little amusement parks and those little places. I don't know. There's a little pizza place there that makes. I remember this place, Lisa's Pizza, something like that. That makes. I don't know. It's not the best pizza you ever had, but on a warm summer night, when you
It's pretty
want a
good.
slice of pizza, it's the best pizza you ever had. And these places make their money in the 8 weeks of summer. Not many people go to Old Orchard in the winter. As a matter of fact, I think I was one of the only ones that ever went to Old Orchard in the middle of winter.
You're the only guy in town, and
I was literally. I
there was
mean,
no,
everything was literally. When I went up there, I went up there a few times in the winter because I had friends that lived in Kennebunkport. Um, there was nobody there except the people that actually own those houses, and they all probably live there.
no fried
So they're
dough.
all around. So these people are going to go under. There's no way that that amusement park can stay open. There's no way that those fried dough stands can last. There's no way that those games, the knockdown Cupid doll thing and all of that, the water and
Games of chance.
races. Yeah, the games of chance. There's no way that they're going to last 8 weeks of the summer because that's when they pay their rent. That's when they buy their land. That's when that money that's generated in that 8 weeks helps that town survive.
And Vinny, there's nothing on this planet that would get that guy to take to the streets to hold a sign and complain about his lot in life and the results of these decisions that Donald Trump has made, except the threat to his very existence, which is being multiplied in 1,000 ways across the nation right now. People who have been forced out of their jobs, where government efficiency has shut down government support of a myriad of elements in our society that we never thought of until now as essentials, but they are essential. It is the result of these decisions made by Donald Trump that are sending people, teachers, government workers, people working in the defense industry, people that work in industries that are the auto industry. The extraordinary reach of these decisions and the damage that they're doing is going to put people into the streets, and that will be the end of them. That will be the end of the Republicans for generations. They have forced the hand of the American people to take umbrage, to go to the streets, to demonstrate. The unrest is now multiplying, and it's the only thing that we've got on our side, because we don't have the Congress. The Congress doesn't exist. The Congress is a weak and irritating aspect of governance in Donald Trump's eyes. He doesn't need it. They do what he tells them to. They do it when he tells them to do it, and they don't squeak. They can't face their constituents. They can't face the truth, the ugly comeuppance of all this. The tragedy that ends this all will happen in the streets of America.
Yeah, how are these town meetings going, fellas? Girls, is that going okay, or are you getting shouted down at those town meetings?
Just think of the anger of these Republican voters who put these people in power and now quickly see that they've made a ghastly mistake.
And what bothers me, and I'm yet to see it, maybe there's some grand plan, is I don't see the Democrats seizing on this.
Yeah, there are elements of that. Bernie
I
Sanders,
don't see a
AOC.
grand plan. I don't see I don't see anybody.
I don't think a grand plan is what we need. I think what we need is a grassroots plan of anger and resentment, and that will bring the government down. That will bring the House down. We just talked about the French Revolution. They had nothing going on their side except that they own the streets, and that will come again to be the factor that decides the future of the Trump regime. And that of Elon Musk. I refer Elon Musk to the last picture taken of Benito Mussolini and his girlfriend. Don't forget his girlfriend was with him for that last shot.
Right. Well,
that's how despots end, hung by their ankles.
Well, I don't know that we need to overthrow the government or end the government. What we do need is to end the despots, as you say, who have seized control of the government. We need to think about, be looking toward the next election when we can run candidates, primary the Republicans, and get these people who are ruining America out of power, so that we have a Congress that has the balls enough. We need 435 Alexandria Ocasio. That's what we need.
Right.
We need 435 Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
We need. I'll give me 435 Adam Kinzingers. But give me people that are going to stand up and say that what's going on is wrong, and are going to have the nerve to stand up to Trump and defeat and put a Congress in power that's going to check this guy. Now, we also have to have an American electorate that's going to be willing to do it.
Well, they're awake now, like never
because
before.
Again, the people that you know, we can blame all of this on Trump, and we can point a finger at Trump and Musk and everybody else. But we did this to not we, you and I didn't do it, but America did this to itself.
Thinking that what's the
We
worst
knew
that could
what this
happen?
guy was before he was elected.
Well, the American electorate is traditionally not that circumspect. They don't look into things very deeply. They can't be bothered. We always talk about, well, the cable news stations talk about the element of the American populace that's not really following the political stories. How you could not follow them in these days and times, in this atmosphere is beyond me. But they say, well, we follow this every day because it's our business. But America doesn't give a shit. America is just following it along. They're waiting for baseball to start. They're waiting for the March Madness to conclude. They're more concerned about something else in their life.
Yeah, it's true.
Kitchen table issues. They're confused and angered about the price of eggs, but they never trace it back to find out why are eggs costing so much, for crying out loud. They never used to cost this much.
No, what's even worse is they believe what Trump tells them that,
And what Fox tells them.
not just Trump. I mean, his Republican cohorts. Uh, they believe what they tell him that. Oh, it's Biden that's raising the price of
Well,
eggs.
if you saw Trump this morning in his far-ranging, insane press conference where he spoke with the press, getting softball questions from frontline stooges and people who were posing as journalists, asking the right questions. Everything is Joe Biden's fault. He referred to Biden every 30 seconds as the worst of this and the worst of that, the author of all our problems. Everything that we're struggling with right now, Biden's fault. Ukraine, Biden's fault. Israel and Hamas, Biden's fault. The
It
economy,
seemed
the
to be
price of
okay
egg.
when Biden was president. I mean, we weren't chopping off uh, government agencies, and we weren't worried about Medicaid getting taken away. We weren't worrying about our Social Security getting taken away.
And we weren't attacking Panama. Not that I noticed. I
Yeah,
mean,
we weren't attacking Panama. The Canadians were coming down to fill that guy's bed and breakfast inn up, and Old Orchard had fried dough. That was, you could smell it in the air
with whipped cream and strawberries, if you so
if you
desired.
wanted it, or just plain butter and cinnamon sugar. And I want my butter and cinnamon sugar.
Of course you
I
do.
want, I want. Listen, the America that Joe Biden put out there may not have been perfect. It had its flaws,
Well, it was
but
never
it was a
described as
damn sight
perfection.
better than this idiocy and this confusion and this flooding the zone mentality that we're seeing now. But
And
yet,
that is a factor in its own perfection, because the perfection that Donald Trump specializes in is chaotic imperfection. Is he comes to your party and makes a mess right in the middle of the floor.
and the sad part is about it. Well, one of the sad parts about it, there's several sad parts about it, but one of the sad parts about it is when you say something about it, all of a sudden his acolytes, his people that follow him and believe everything
People
that
who
he
still
says,
and
him and Leon,
people who still say, "What about Hillary Clinton?"
they jump on your social media and they start arguments. People that you never see on your social media almost leads me to believe that they're paid by Trump or Musk or somebody to jump on your social media when you say something. And I'll give you an example. The other day when a spaceship came down, I said, now there's a new one, the Gulf of America. Huh. And all of a sudden, I get two guys, and these are two guys I know, but they're on there now saying that, yeah, go back to Biden, go this, you got this. Not making any salient points, but just arguing with people that are on my have responded to the post that I put up. Now I'm going to block these people. And I know one of them was a salesman at the radio station I used to work at. The other guy was a general manager at a radio station. So they're both people that have lied to people consistently all their lives. They've lied about how many people are listening to the radio station. They've lied to people about what the radio station can deliver. They've lied, they've lied, they've lied.
So you're talking about Mike O'Shea.
No, no, interestingly enough, I think I blocked him a long time ago. But they got what they wanted. And now they can't be man enough or person enough, whatever you want to say, to stand up and say, gee, you know what? You're right. This guy is out of line. He's ruining the country. He's causing mass chaos. Because in their world, they can only see what he says and go on the attack at other people. There's no room for other opinion, like the Nazis. There's no room for other opinion.
Because it's not an opinion; it's an attack on the
Right. Something as innocent as, well, there's a new one. It wasn't that I said, screw Trump, that he did this, screw this, stand up in protest to Gulf of America. They don't want you to say, think, write, or do anything against their king.
Never entertain a thought that's negative to Donnie from Queens.
Because you might get somebody else to think that. And if somebody else thinks it, maybe two of their friends think it.
Maybe they'll start teaching it at the university level.
And if that ain't a fucking cult, I don't know what is. If that ain't a cult, and these are people that 15 years ago were good people. Sat and had lunch with them and talked to them and sat at a table with them. And now they've turned into just out and out scumbags.
Unstable citizens.
And
Donald Trump today said that there was no NATO until he became president. The very organization is gathered its strength from his dedication to the National North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Look, nothing happened before he became president.
There was nothing here. It was just a desert.
It was a barren country. We didn't have trees. We didn't have buildings. We had nothing. We were all living in huts.
We didn't even have pilgrims.
We didn't have cars. We didn't have gasoline. We didn't have oil. We didn't have anything before Donald Trump became president. He'll take fucking credit for it all.
What we did have was frontage roads. They were some of the most beautiful frontage roads in the world. Not as nice as Slovakia, but very, very nice frontage roads.
So, I guess, Michael, I'm getting tired of this shit. I'm getting tired of it.
Well, that's why I think the answer's in the streets, Vinnie. I think the uprising, and I'm not talking about a revolution of violent proportions, but I'm talking about a stoppage of commerce as we know it. For when America says, that's it, that's all, no more.
Well, I think, I truly do think that maybe we're going to start seeing that kind of stuff. Maybe, as we saw Europe in the 60s and the 70s, we saw people who were willing to walk out for a day.
They do it in France all the time.
They have a general strike. It happened all the time.
Yeah, France is
and eventually things got better. If you get rid of all the immigrants, you run out of people to blame it on. You see, now that the perception is they're getting rid of all their immigrants, but they're really not.
They're just getting
I don't think they're deporting any more people than Biden did. I don't know. I didn't check the figures before we went on, but I hazard a guess that they're probably, if they're deporting more, it's not a big number.
I think you're right.
And So that they have to start to find somebody else to blame. Because you always have to have somebody to blame.
Joe Biden is the guy today.
Joe Biden is the guy that they've decided. But, he's an old guy. You don't see him, so you don't even know what kind of health condition he's in.
I think probably not the best, but Trump looked pretty feeble today in terms of his cognitive flow. It just wasn't there. He
Yeah, the
he
problem
he,
is,
he goes over old ground in a halting way.
well, hopefully somebody is going to stand up to this guy. Somebody, but it doesn't seem to be anybody in the Republican Party because they got what they wanted.
Nobody.
And the Democrats, instead of standing strong together, have buckled at the knees.
The interesting thing about the response to Trump is that the threat of being primary, that is, if the New York Vinnie's a Republican from Kennebunkport and he runs successfully and gets elected, if he doesn't follow the Trump line, Trump puts somebody against him in the next election. And what's made that worse is that Leon Mux will give that person $1 million to get started.
Right. Right.
Because one seat's worth that much to him.
Well, we have to come to a realization in this country, and I don't know that we're ever going to do it. See, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that there are so many people that are content, that are fat and lazy. I'm just fat. I'm not lazy. Well, maybe I am lazy too. I don't know. I might have the double whammy there.
I don't think so.
But there are so many people who are tuned into this, who are saying, you know what? I'm comfortable the way I am.
This is good. I like it.
This is good. I don't have to think about it. And nothing will happen until they do lose, and we all lose something in this deal. If all of a sudden you get a notice in your Social Security check that, or your deposit that, hey, we're cutting your Social Security by 20%.
Leon says you don't need it, and he does.
When you're already trying to make the ends meet, when you're already paying $2,500 a month for a $600 a month apartment, when you're already facing homelessness, when
Donald Trump can make that happen for you.
When you're already looking at the bad things that can happen, and you won't be able to go to a hospital and get your anti-anxiety medicine because you don't have health care, because they've cut that. So now you're a raving lunatic out on the street, living in a freaking cardboard box under the freeway.
Bring out your dead.
Or you go jump off a bridge. You say that that's it. And I don't want that to happen to people. But that's the America that we're headed for. We're headed for an America that looks like Venezuela.
A failed state.
And as shitty as it is some days, I love this country. With all the faults and all the mistakes that we make, we still have a system where somebody can make good if they want to work hard. Somebody can make good if they want to better themselves.
And it's our home. It's our future.
And yeah, it's home.
And that's all been taken away from us in a matter of weeks. It's all been threatened, put into jeopardy on purpose, with no end game in sight, with no rationale that makes any sense, with no one of intelligence and education helping us with these decisions, helping cut a government or reorganize a government. It's just the wholesale slaughter of an entire society and all the elements that hold it together. It's coming apart like the interior of a Tesla.
Yeah, no shit.
By the way,
And
70,000
meanwhile,
tests, 70,000 Teslas got recalled because their interiors can't stay glued together.
yeah, meanwhile, he's putting cars out there that are substandard. He's putting cars out there that
They're not finished. They're not
that are,
finished
yeah,
works.
the design was is I mean, yeah, he's making cars and he's America's biggest car maker, but are those cars cardboard? I mean, that Cybertruck looks like they're all falling apart.
And of his last three rocket launches for SpaceX out of Texas, two out of three didn't make it into even orbit. We got the astronauts back, and everyone's congratulating Elon Musk for coming through on that one. Remember the two rockets that were launched with satellite payloads the previous weeks? They both blew up over the Caribbean to such an extent and with such a trail of debris and shrapnel that airports had to be closed throughout the Caribbean and in the Gulf Coast states while they got all that nonsense out of the air. And it was the criticism of the SpaceX safety program that got the FAA director fired because that's what Leon wanted.
Yeah, that's the problem that we're facing is that if you don't step in line with Leon, that all of a sudden
He got a world of hurt.
you're going to be in trouble.
That's why he went to the Pentagon today to get that briefing on China. And they lied about it and said it wasn't about China. It was a briefing about something else.
Well, they canceled it.
He was just there to say hello and to doge the place.
Yeah, I guess Trump canceled it. I was just reading that a little while ago. I'm going to go back to the story here a second. La 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 la. Okay, this is 15 minutes ago on the New York Times. President Trump denies he would let Musk see plans for war with China. An expected meeting between Musk and military leaders about potential war with China was said to be canceled after the Times wrote about the briefing. So they're saying
That it exists, but it canceled.
that it existed, but it was canceled. And Trump with his happy face on in this picture, boy, this guy, what a fucking sourpuss. Yeah, anyway, it's yeah, it won't my computer is having
This is still indicative of the strange world we live in where corporate pay will get you access to anything you need, including the most sensitive intelligence that we possess on the planet. And given the release of the Kennedy assassination documents that had already been released before, by the way, we see that there's no circumspect review of these documents before they're released. The social security numbers and addresses and full names and work history and tax history of all the people involved in the research that led to the Warren report and the additional 60 to 80,000 documents that were kept quiet for all these years for security purposes were then just released willy-nilly, and it was a childlike effort on their behalf to disregard the sensitive nature of some of these documents and they redacted nothing. It was a horrible misstep that, if applied to this China document, could very well spark war, could very well spark indignation, could rupture the relationship between China and the United States unnecessarily, to the point where it could never be repaired in a generation. It's the most irresponsible form of idiocy and Trumpism that we've seen in this week. Perhaps it can't be overstated how sensitive that material is and how ridiculous it is to be banding it about with a fool like Elon Musk.
Well, what did you think was going to happen with this guy? What did people think was going to happen? I mean, he had highly sensitive documents in the bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. Did you think that was going to change when you elected him president? Did you think that all of this stuff that all of he was, he got shot, so he's a different man? Well, I mean, what the hell did anybody think was gonna? Did people think that? Oh, well, he's gonna change things. In 2016, he said he was gonna drain the swamp. Did he ever drain the swamp? No, he didn't drain the swamp. Well, now the swamp is as thick as it ever was because he is the swamp.
And there are new animals swimming in that swamp.
So anybody that, and I mean, here's how you want to hear how fucking vain this guy is. I guess they've signed a contract with Boeing, who is, I mean, famous for how well their planes and spaceships run.
At one time.
I mean, the saying here in Seattle, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Anyway, so the next generation fighter jet will be built by Boeing. And this is after he's complaining about it's taking too long to deliver the new Air Force One. What do you think they're going to call a new plane? Which, by the way, was started in development way before he became president. But it's being called the F-47 in tribute to his presidency. I heard Jimmy Kimmel say this last night, and I like it. They ought to amend the Constitution so that Trump can run for a third term. And then Barack Obama should be the one that runs against him. See how that works out.
I think we need a little bit more of an attack dog than Barack is capable of delivering. He's the one whose dream was to have a cabinet like Abraham Lincoln's, made up of Democrats and Republicans. That was an idea that was 7 generations removed in the wrong direction.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where we're going, Michael. And to be honest with you, it depresses me even more to talk about this shit every day.
Well, you can't make a solution to this and say, and remember, we have to be fair to the Nazis on this one. Let's be fair to the Nazis, give them a chance, give them an opportunity to be part of the conglomerate.
Why, are they fair to you? Are they fair to me?
That's exactly what I'm
Are they fair to the American people?
You can't say, well, let them in, let them have a part of the, no.
Are they fair to anybody?
They showed their hand.
You want fairness, then you be fair to people. But, I get enough stuff in my life to be depressed about.
Without having the entire shit show come down on you every day.
Without having to pay attention to this all the time and hear this guy. I mean, I can't watch him on I see him on television, I have to turn the channel.
It makes Kristen
because
sick.
I know that every word coming out of his mouth is bullshit.
That's right. And that is the truth. Donald Trump is bullshit. If you want to know what the truth
America,
is.
You better wake up. I'm going to be dead in 10 years. 15 maybe. Or who knows, the way things are going, maybe quicker. But a lot of you are going to be here for a while. We lived through the best of times. We lived through some great times. We lived through the Beatles, and we lived through the Rolling Stones, and we lived through the 60s and the 70s, and free love and drugs, and an economy that was sometimes good, sometimes bad, but enough that we could all survive. We lived through that. You're going to see, if you're 30 years old today, you're going to see nothing of that. The best thing you got going for you right now is Taylor Swift.
Who, by the way, is in talks to get a briefing on the war with China.
I
You want
hope
her in
so.
on it? Yeah.
I feel safer with her than, um, but we,
And you've got nieces and nephews. I've got grandchildren who are 9 and 5 years old, just about
yeah,
6. What possible world are they going to inherit if Donald Trump prevails much longer? Because
are they going,
everything
are
for,
they
for
going to
two,
be taken care of? Are they going to, or are they going to live in a society uh, where people are out in the streets, where we disrespect our older people even more than we do now? I don't, I care about it, but I'm just getting,
tired of it, weary.
I'm getting where I want to talk about the good things that happen. I'm getting where I want to talk about music, and I want to talk about books and authors and baseball and some of the good shit that's going on.
Well, you would think that a show dedicated to that would be successful right now. But if you're doing topic conversations in the media, even on social media like we were doing, you have to address the big dog, the big elephant in the room. And you have to shine a light on the destruction of a society, the wanton, unnecessary, ruthless destruction of a society by itself, by a hateful son of a bitch who resents everything that's successful and good and accomplished in this nation. And from Harvard University right down to the where the border is with Canada, he wants to challenge it all. And what he's done is he's just taking the shit on everything.
Well, maybe it's time.
We thought it
Uh,
was indelible. We thought it was forever. We thought it was a society so rich and so varied and so accomplished that nothing could destroy it. But one guy can, and he set about to do just that.
and
And the
he's doing a
dark
pretty good job of it.
and the dark, fearful, cowardly men who serve him are with him on every step of the way.
He's doing a pretty good job of it. But I do hold faith in that the Italians in the 40s figured out what was going on, and they wound up taking care of business.
The piece of the pie.
And I guess I'm hoping at some point that the true Americans, the people that love this country, the people that care about the kids in this country, that care about each other, the guys that stop when when there's somebody in the crosswalk instead of barreling through it, those people. I hope that those people stand up for this country. The people that say, I don't need a big pickup truck. I can go with a small pickup truck. I don't have to have bull's balls hanging from my trailer hitch to show I'm a man.
They're kind of bugly, you got to admit.
I mean, those are the things that I look at, and I want to see something. I want to see those people stand up and not be comfortable And maybe it'll take people not being comfortable, Michael. Maybe it'll take people not feeling like everything's all right, because everything isn't all right.
You know what it's
Everything
like?
isn't all right.
The concept of the rats leaving a ship always starts with the first rat who leaves the ship. He has to show the other rats the way off. They don't want to go. They're happy on the ship. They're rats. They like being on the ship. Everything's like they always were promised it was going to be. One rat says, "You know, I think it's better on shore. I want to go up the rope. Keep an eye on me." He comes back and says, "It's beautiful out here. There's a whole world. You don't have to live in the hull of a ship. You can have the entire world to before you as an option for whatever your dreams might be. Follow me up the rope." One rat goes, another rat goes, and then they flee en masse. And they're the very people who said, "We're rats. We don't deserve anything better. We should stay on the ship." And then one day that argument falls to the side and is never used again. And that's what we're approaching. We're approaching the place where the people who have voted and supported Donald Trump have to turn on him to bring down Donald Trump. And why would they do that? They're doing it because of what Donald Trump did to them in return for their vote and their support and their love and their adoration.
Well, it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's not going to be simple. It's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be pretty, and there's going to be tragedy at the end.
You have a mindset in this country of people who think that this is all right, that what's going on is good.
Well,
That
that doesn't stand up to scrutiny, unfortunately. It's not good. It's the worst.
well, that's the thing. There's certainly, if you look at different timelines, I mean, they're out there. The rat bastards that want to just jump on your social media. I mean, for me, and it'll never happen. But I would be okay if they said nobody can discuss politics on social media anymore. I'd rather see the baby pictures. I'd rather see
Kittens.
the kittens. I'd rather see that than have these people who literally start fights
Yeah.
and who I seriously believe are tools of something insidious, something bigger than us.
Well, that's what the Republicans believe. They say that these town hall disruptions are all paid for by George Soros and Democratic actors. All the out of work Democratic actors in New York that can't get a job on off Broadway are working for George Soros and showing up in places like Des Moines or Tucson or Las Vegas and
Yeah.
shouting things like "Just do your job."
Well, there's one way we'll find out about that, and that's at the elections in November of this, and in November a year from this. Because if you're that pissed off,
Show
if
me,
you're that upset,
prove it,
if you're that uncomfortable,
vote.
you will vote and register and make sure that you track your vote. You'll make sure you know where your vote is going. You'll make sure that your county commissioner, and that's going to be a very important election coming up. These off-year elections we take for granted. Oh, I'm not going to vote. There's nobody on the ballot. There's not this. There's not that. Well, you know what? There are people on the ballot. There's the
Big,
commissioner of elections on the ballot. There's the this, the that, the secretary of state, all of these offices that control things that happen in our government at a lower level. And if you put people in that agree with these people, well, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get people who can rig the election. You're going to get people that can um, hide different facts. You're going to get people.
there's a big election going on in Wisconsin that had to do with the state Supreme Court, and Millions of dollars are being spent on this by both sides. And
Yeah, you got one in Florida too that's going on right now.
Leon Musk is the man behind the money for the Republicans, the Trump heads.
I still want to believe that the will of the people, and maybe I've watched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington a few too many times, but I still want to believe that the will of the people can override the money.
If there's a negative side of
Because
the
if it
money,
can't,
it gets rejected.
we're doomed.
Yeah.
If it can't, then you
Game
know,
over.
not just throw up your hands and go along for the ride. And this election and the election following it will be two big elections.
We'll
And,
either
you
save
know, maybe,
ourselves or condemn ourselves.
well, you know, the old saying, right? God helps those that help themselves, right?
That's what we were told. I don't
Well,
know
it's
where
time to
he's
start
been.
helping yourself. Hey, a couple of things, man, before we get out of here. Uh, I just wanted to mention this, and we'll talk more about it on drive time tomorrow. We will have a drive time. I think we've got our technical problems worked out, but probably the last of the great 60s car guys. I'm talking about Ed Big Daddy Roth, um, George Barris, you know, guys of that ilk, the great custom car designers, the guys that put those great custom cars out on the street, passed away earlier this month. Gene Winfield,
What was he
who
known for?
actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, designed or worked on the Batmobile with George Barris.
Yeah.
Passed away at 95 and 94 years old. I'm just heard about it this morning. I'm going to get into it a little bit more, but we'll talk a little bit about him and that great era of custom cars. When we looked at, you know, at cars and went, wow, you know, I still to this day, matter of fact, one of the companies that I have that you know we use it for production of certain of the drive time stuff is the Rat and the Saint uh, Productions. And the Rat, of course, is the Rat Fink from Ed Big Daddy Roth.
RF.
RF. I mean, you had to be alive in the middle 60s to realize how big the Rat Fink was. I mean, it was huge.
Everybody knew about it.
And so, anyway, so he's the last, he closes out an era of these guys that took, you know, 50s and 60s cars and turned them into dream machines. You know, nowadays a lot of that stuff just comes out of the factory. But these were people who built these cars for the road that took a 58 Chevy and turned it into something that would turn heads when you pulled up at the root beer stand. And I got to meet Gene Winfield and interview him when I was in Pittsburgh. He came to town for the Roadster show, the Hot Rod show. And a wonderful guy, but a guy who definitely still had one foot in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, he had done so many different things, but his building customs and building all these things, you know, he was a part of automotive art, which you know, which not just that they built cars um, for movies and stuff like that, but they built cars to please people. They saw these machines going down the road as potential pieces of design art and brought about so many things that actually were used in later models of cars. the engineers, the Detroit engineers used to go to these shows, the Motorama in Detroit, and look at this and look at that and say, hey, that would be nifty if we stuck it in the Lincoln Continental.
Does Detroit still build what they call concept cars that are
Yeah,
never part of
yeah,
production?
yeah. And the Japanese are really into concept. I mean, they put out some phenomenal concept cars.
Of course.
Um,
Probably
and
you could buy one.
Kia, which is Korean, has also done a lot, and they've probably done a lot in taking their concept cars and bringing them to market.
Take
The
it to the
Santa
street.
Cruz pickup from Hyundai was a concept. The Stinger from Kia was a concept. The Soul from Kia was a concept that came to fruition as a production car. So you see a lot of the future design cues in a lot of these different cars. And anyway, Gene Winfield, who was so involved in the early custom car trend, passed away, and we'll talk a little bit more about him tomorrow on Drive Time. We're going to talk to the Costco Auto Program. They have done a whole electric EV thing on their website to help people decide if they want an EV, and then if they do want one, to get them to help them make a knowledgeable sale, make a knowledgeable buy at a good price, without a lot of dealer bullcrap. So we're going to talk to my friend over at the Costco Auto Program, and hopefully get some tips from her about buying an EV.
Maybe find out if this really is a good time to buy a car to try to beat the tariffs.
Well, actually, it is. It seems that it really is, because uh, car companies have ordered extra cars, have built extra cars so that they could get them in before the tariffs.
Get them across the border.
The There's another interesting thing going on with Leon too. There's Now I don't know the whole story behind this, but they are mysteriously now popping up these lots in Canada full of Teslas, and I guess they had a program up there where if you built an electric car or sold an electric car before a certain date, the Canadian government would give you a huge rebate on it, probably paying for like half the car, because they really want people to go electric. They're a lot more committed to climate repair than we are, much more.
Well, Leon doesn't
And
believe in
so
that.
Tesla now is under fire because they think that Tesla defrauded the government of Canada by getting all these cars under a certain law that was up there. So, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on Tesla, uh, but I'll spend enough time talking about a couple of different things, and of course the fact that Tesla, the Cybertruck, is they all got to go back, because in 4 years of promising the Cybertruck, he couldn't build one that sustains more than 6 months out on the road without a repair.
A super glue problem. The panels come out of
Don't worry
their.
about it. That super glue's made in America.
Apparently, it happens while you're driving.
He just didn't get the right horses for it or something. I
Panels
don't know.
panels come apart while you're making your way down the road.
Do they still use horses for glue?
They do not.
They don't. Okay, good.
But here in California, you still got to take the 405 to the 10 to get to Santa Monica. And
Not if you're in a Cybertruck,
while you're doing it, your Cybertruck comes unglued in the heat.
You're in a Cybertruck, pal. You're taking back streets, I should say. You're not getting on the freeway, not unless you want to get the finger constantly.
The finger.
You're getting a lot of fingers. All right, so we'll be on 11 o'clock tomorrow morning with Drive Time. I will meet you back here
Monday morning.
on Monday morning. Going to be a crazy week and weekend for me. Um, I'm packing up my life here and moving. Well, not this weekend. I'm moving next weekend, but
But you got to get
so
going.
say again.
You got to get going. I wish I were there to help you, Ben. I'm sorry.
That's it's okay, Michael. I surprisingly don't have that much to move. Really, when you think about it, I don't. I've pared myself down a lot over the years I've been up here. So it's a few things to move, and that's it. I mean, I'm not living a priest life yet, but yeah, getting close.
Father Vinnie.
Yeah, nah, we thought about that. It would never work. There
No.
was one time when I was younger, I actually thought, maybe I'll become a priest.
Nah.
Yeah, that wouldn't have lasted long. I just wouldn't have. I don't have the discipline to do it.
Too much St. Mark's Square in your blood.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I could have. Well, I am an ordained minister
Of the Church of
so
what?
of Universal Life Church, where everybody is, so I can do weddings. And
Bar
as a matter of
mitzvahs?
fact, I was thinking about doing weddings at the ballpark. Come to the ballpark, get married by me,
Steal a base. Get a foul
steal a
ball.
base. Come to the ballpark. We'll get you married. All right, man. I'll see you on Monday if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Um,
Peace,
what else
love.
can I say, man? Peace, love, and Manischewitz.
What a wine. And what a tariff on that wine.
Put a tariff on that wine from Brooklyn. That wine. See you, Mikey.
See you, Benny.
See you all too, man. We'll catch up with you for drive time tomorrow. Really appreciate you listening. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Bye.